Hi, my name is Kiran. I'm 20 years old and I'm a Millennial Catalyst for International Connector here in New Zealand. And how the internet has helped me make a bigger impact in the world is that it's allowed for me to become way more empathetic. See, here in New Zealand, it's really tough to connect in with what's going on in the world, whether it's large political issues or environmental disasters, mostly because of our geographical location, but also the fact that it's not so much in day-to-day conversations or covered in local media. So 6 months ago, when I was backpacking across Europe, I found myself in a hostel in Berlin. And in this hostel, two of the dorm rooms were reserved for recent refugees who had just come into Germany and Berlin. And I knew a little bit about the refugee crisis, but I didn't know the full extent of truly what was going on in terms of stories for individuals and journeys and tragedies that have been going along the way. And so I was quite curious about what was truly going on. And so one of the nights I came back to the hostel, and there were two boys who were sitting there in the communal area. One Kashif, who is from Pakistan and 16 years old, and Naeem, who is from Afghanistan. And we were chatting away about a number of things, how they didn't like maths class at school, and a number of things that we connected upon. But as you can imagine, the conversation then led to how did they get there, and what were some of the stories that they had along the way. But that was really when the conversation took a turn, and the stories that I heard from them that night, many of them I will never be able to forget, and stories that you just can't fully understand unless you'd been through it. And stories like Kashif being stopped by the border at the border by the Taliban and having to leave his friends behind and trying to sneak away, or Naeem, who had to be in a car boot with five other people across a border, or not having food for 5 days, or having to travel 13 countries over 30 days by foot, are things you simply just can't, fully understand, I suppose. And, in that moment, I remember just trying to think of what it is that I could do. I mean, I contemplating just dropping everything and helping out at a refugee center, or seeing how I could help them the most. And one of the things that I did ask was, if you had 7 billion people in front of you, you had the whole world in front of you, and you could say one thing to them, what would it be? And I remember Kashif, he looked at me and he thought about it for a little while, and he was about to say something, and then he stopped. And he took out his phone, he went on to Google Translate, his English wasn't the best, and he wrote something down, he put it on his phone, he passed it over to me, and I looked at it, and it read, "I'm Muslim, I'm not a terrorist. I'm Muslim, I'm not a psychopath." And I thought of all the things that he could have said to the world, and that's what he wanted to say. And it wasn't, what struck me was that it wasn't revenge, it wasn't spite, it wasn't let's get rid of the Taliban. It was simply for the whole world to understand his beliefs, his values, and reserve their judgments and the prejudices around the Islamic faith. And I was so struck by it, and I thought it was so powerful. And since then I've been able to connect with Naeem and Kashif on Facebook and keep up to date with how they're doing in Berlin. And it's incredibly powerful. And one of the things that I told them is that, hey, look, I'm not sure how I can help in the ways that you might expect, whether it's with money or time, being in New Zealand, but I can help share stories, and I can help get this story out there. And what the internet has allowed for me to do is share Kashif and Naeem's stories, and ensure that here in New Zealand we're still aware of what's going on, and hear the full extent of truly what's going on from a person who's going through it over there in Europe. And so I suppose for me, the internet has allowed for me, and I suppose what it does for the whole world is that it allows for us to, yes, celebrate our differences and celebrate all the things that make us special and unique. But it also allows for us to acknowledge our similarities. Even as little as us both hating maths, but then them having complete different life circumstances and adverse conditions that we've all been through. So, yeah, I'm super grateful, and I'm super happy that I can share that story and be a part of Kashif and Naeem's journeys, and I'm super grateful for the internet for helping me do that. Thanks.